Right now, we want to get back into the Commanders and talk about some of the interesting quotes from Terry McLaurin post-game after the loss to the Niners at FedEx Field as the Commanders fall 27-10. He was asked about potentially playing for a winner in the future. He said, quote, "You know they've got a great staff over there. They've got great players. You can tell they love playing together. Hopefully, I can be a part of something like that, but I'm just focused on myself, my world, and my journey, and I'm going to keep working to be the best player I can be." McLaurin gave those quotes to the Washington Post.
He said, and these are more quotes, he said, I had some time to spend with some of the 49er players when they were at the Pro Bowl last year.
Yep.
He says, I really got to be around them. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what the guys were at Ohio State. Because the kind of culture that they have and everything, you see why they have the success that they do. So I guess, he's just talking about the guys he met from the 49ers roster. And I don't know, it sounds like he's kind of jealous of it. And I get it. I mean, when you're on a 4-13 team and you're talking about a team that's going to be the number one overall seed, they're doing something right that you're not. And so it's interesting to see what kind of changes are going to be made on this roster. And there could be some bigger names that you might not expect go.
Like I'm kind of torn on Terry McLaurin. Like, I really love his talent. I think he's not a top tier wideout, but he's pretty close. Like, he might be that next cut below. I would like to live in like a hypothetical world where I could see Terry McLaurin as like the number 2 wideout on the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes throwing in the ball over the same time span as he had here. Like, what would his numbers look like if he had a real functioning offense, some, cohesion with the offensive coordinator, not all this turnover with the quarterbacks. I mean, part of me wants to see him get dealt to a contender, because he's already got 5 seasons in. He's young enough where he could go through a rebuild, but I just feel like deep down he probably looks at what other guys have as far as quarterback stability, better offensive ecosystem that they're working in. And he's like, man, I really wish I had that. Now
on the flip side, he signed the contract.
Understood.
Now I get it. You want to be financially secure for you and your family.
There's no way you can't sign that deal.
I get it.
Yeah.
But, you chose to be here.
He did.
And in a state of flux, man. And now when you're 4-13, you say, all right, I wish I was there. I see what all these other teams are doing with these other good quarterbacks. Man, I wish that was me. Well, now, you decided to stay here.
On the other side, like if you're the new regime coming in, you're going to look at, obviously, up and down the roster. You're going to parse it every which way. And you're going to see Terry McLaurin, and you're going to say, he's a building block type of piece for the offense. He's a guy that we can rely on that's performed through adverse quarterback play, through weird ownership, through offenses that have been dysfunctional. Like, he still has value. And he certainly has more value if you hit on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And they develop that chemistry between them and they have a rapport. Like that's what you hope to see. But if I'm Terry McLaurin, I'm going to be like, I just have to hope they hit on the quarterback decision. Like the quarterback's it's got to be right, because that's going to be another
3 or 4 year
chunk out of his career.
Right.
And then you're in year 8, and then you start looking around like, man, I've been here almost a decade. Like, when are things going to get better, if ever? So, I mean, he's kind of at it seems like a mini career crossroads here. Like, does he stay and rebuild with whoever the new guy is, or does he go to his agent and say, hey,
let's try and work out a deal.
I've done 5 years here. It hasn't worked. Let's get I need a fresh start too.
That's what I was thinking when I was reading between the lines in that, is that it's, and I'm not speaking for Terry or Jonathan Allen, but it seems like these vets, they really don't want to do a rebuild.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No.
And you can kind of see a rebuild is on the horizon, especially with the owner who coined the phrase, trust the process.
Yep.
Did a whole rebuild that way. And they just seemed kind of like just fed up. That it's overwhelming to them to think about starting at square one. And I think there's a little bit of buyer's remorse that they're here and they got to go through this type of turnover again. Like he just doesn't seem like he wants to be a part of that.
He signed a 3-year deal after the 22 season.
Okay.
Right? And it was a 3-year, $69 million deal. All right. Well, next year is the second year of that deal, but there is an out. I think the team can get out of that potentially after the 24 season.
Okay.
So technically he's heading into the final year of his deal. I mean, obviously if the Commanders wanted to keep him, he's got another year after that. But it's not like he's locked in here for 4 or 5 more years. Really only locked in for 1 more.
Yeah, it looks like he has cap hits a little over 20 million, like 24 and then 23 million in 24 and 25.
Yeah.
And then his cap hit dips to 5.6 million in 2026.
Correct. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, could you see Washington making a deal and trying to get something for Terry McLaurin? Or does he stay here for, like you said, a rebuild?
But I feel
with another young quarterback.
I mean, who knows what direction they're going to go in personnel-wise. But if I'm the new GM coming in, I mean, I'm considering everything. But I'm also looking at the receiving core. Curtis Samuel's a free agent at the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
Jahan Dotson, for whatever reason, hasn't really been involved in year 2. You have to hope that he has a bounce back. Like, are you really going to go into 2024, especially with a young quarterback, and you're going to take away his top weapon in Terry McLaurin?
Probably not.
Probably not. Like, if you're going to draft Drake May or Caleb Williams, you want those guys throwing the ball to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Because then, hopefully, he's finally got what he hasn't had through 5 seasons here. He's got quarterback stability. He's got a guy who's picked super high in the draft, good bloodlines, great pedigree. Like, I'd be reluctant if I were the GM unless a team is like, look, we love Terry McLaurin. He's a stand-up guy.
We feel like he puts us over the top.
Great player, great citizen. You're never going to worry about, that guy doing anything wrong off the field. I mean, he's a model type of guy. Like, if a team comes to you with a great package, I mean, you have to at least listen, especially if you're rebuilding the whole thing from the ground up.
Yeah.
Like, if you're starting over, if you're putting the TNT to this thing, like they should, then you have to consider trading some of your top-tier players, especially if you get a return package that, look, this is an analytically driven front office. And if Eugene Shen, the import from Baltimore, goes to Josh Harris and says, look, this deal for Terry McLaurin is too good to pass up, I'm going to guess Josh Harris is going to say,
let's do it.
Do the deal.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a chance. I wouldn't bet on it, but there is a chance of that. And, some of these players like Jonathan Allen, like Terry McLaurin, that came from these just rock-solid college football programs where all they do is win 10 or 11 or 12 games a year, and they go to, huge bowls or national championships.
Yep.
It's hard when they come to Washington. All right, they're making a bunch of money, but they can't crack an egg.
Yeah.
They can't get to the playoffs.
We've seen we've seen the boiling point for Jonathan Allen.
Right.
Like midway through the season, I can't remember which loss it was. But
I think it was after the first Giant loss.
He was, to paraphrase, he's like, I'm tired of this S. I'm tired of talking about rebuilding after being here for 7 years. These guys reach breaking points. And yeah, it's a good point as far as these guys come from the top of the top college football, top of the pyramid programs where the culture is always amazing. The culture is all about winning. These aren't programs that lose 3 or 4 games in a season. Like, these are the type of programs where if you lose 1 game in a season, it pretty much shatters your national title hopes.
Right.
Like, the goal is undefeated seasons. And then to come in here and lose the way that they have since they've been in the Washington franchise, it has to drive them crazy.
And they're going to lose their 8th straight game Sunday.
Yes.
Because Dallas, it means everything for Dallas to win the division. Dallas is going to play all their starters. They're going to beat the Washington Commanders. And the Washington Commanders have a bunch of injury issues. So, I mean, as a player like McLaurin or Jonathan Allen, just prepping for the week, when you know the game means nothing. It
Right.
means everything for Dallas. We're going to lose our 8th straight. Man, that's going to be tough to just go to work every day.
It is, but like both of those guys you mentioned they are super professional.
I know they are.
Like they will
But
not,
they're also humans.
They are, but they're not going to stray from their preparation. Like they're gonna attack this Cowboys game the same way they have all the other games. Now, it's not going to prevent them from losing against a highly motivated team in the Dallas Cowboys.
And wait till you see how many Cowboy fans there are.
Oh, I mean,
there's going to be
the place,
70% Cowboy fans.
The place couldn't have been more overrun with Niners fans this past weekend.
Yeah.
And
way over 50%.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be even worse and more stark this upcoming weekend. Because at least the Niners fans could kind of blend in if they're wearing red and or white. There's no blending in with the Cowboys colors. That's going to be a sea of like Cowboys blue, navy blue. Like you're definitely going to sense it throughout the game. Like in the Niners game, the crowd's chanting defense, and it was when the Commanders were on offense. It was all the Niners fans chanting in their home stadium.
And again, remember how jacked up the fan base was to start this season?
Absolutely.
And who'd they play? Who'd they open up with? Arizona?
The Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals. How many unbelievable, hectic Washington Commanders fans there were. They're all pumped up. I don't know. It might not have been sold out, but I think they claimed it was.
Yeah. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was a sellout.
Yeah. And, now you're going to lose your 8th straight. That's how it's flipped like that. Flipped. Completely flipped. And when you see the stars of the team, like the Jonathan Allens and the Terry McLaurins, say, yeah, man, I'm really kind of jealous of the culture over there. I mean, that says a lot because usually they won't say that.
Right.
They won't talk about that.
I think now they might be letting their guard down a little bit because they know Ron's on his way out. The front office, they aren't going to be retained. So maybe now they're just like, you know what? We can be a little free and loose with the quotes, with one game left on the sched.
I think that's what it was.
By the way, did you place a season-long wager on the Commanders over win total?
Yeah, I lost. Not
6.5?
6.5.
You were looking good after the first 2 weeks. You were feeling good.
I was feeling pretty good.
You're feeling pretty solid.
I didn't think they were going to get to the 8 or 9 wins. I just thought that, probably get to 7.
Just get 7.
Maybe 8, especially after going 2-0. But I'm not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
The teams
had to pay the piper.
Here are the teams in the 7-win range. Oh, well, they all have 7 wins. Atlanta, Chicago, Vegas, Minnesota. They could potentially have been in that mix, but they just weren't good enough. They're in the mix now with the Bears, who hold the number 1 pick. Well, it's actually Carolina held the pick, goes to the Bears in the Bryce Young deal. 2-14. Washington, New England, Arizona, all at 4-12. Let's have a clap for Arizona beating Philadelphia over the weekend and sliding down the draft board. What is happening with the Eagles, by the way?
Well, they're a mess.
They're
a complete mess.
Completely unfolding down the stretch.
Defensively, they can't stop anybody. And that was going to be their – remember last year? That was – obviously their offense was a strength, but their defense was unbelievable.
Yeah, the defense has taken a big slide backwards.
They can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
But think about all of those teams you mentioned that are just bad. They're bad. There's some bad teams. And they got 6, 7, 8 wins.
Yep.
And Washington's going to lose their 8th straight.